This is Jackie, and I am here with Lenka. Last week, you released your new single, Good Days. It's off of your upcoming album of the same title. So that leads me to believe that this song means a lot to you, even not that you have to choose one, but kind of feel like you would, your title track, right?
Yeah.
What does that single
Well,
say about you as an artist?
I mean, I will say there's part of it just that it sounded like a cool name for an album because I do believe that music is a little bit like a magic spell, and what you put out is going to be what's going to sort of carry the energy, you know? So I'm not going to put out an album that's like this sucks or something like that. So of all the strong title tracks, that was the best one. But also it is a great song, and it's quite telling of the tone of the album. And it's got the vibe that I wanted to carry forth.
That makes a lot of sense. You want to put out the vibe of the album. So let's start with something
Yeah,
positive. That makes total
for
sense.
sure.
That
And it
track,
was the least heavy. Like there's a couple of other ones that I could have chosen, but it would have been a little bit too conceptual or philosophical. And I didn't really want that to tag this album. I just kind of wanted, I really tried with this album to just make some classic good music. There is, concepts running through it, and there are darker philosophical moments, but I didn't want to push that too much.
no, that makes a lot of sense. The song itself, Good Days, seems to have some retro 60s vibes. Is there
Yeah.
a person or a time that kind of inspired that maybe shift?
Well, I've always loved 60s from like pop and soul and rock and folk anyway. I was brought up on jazz, but then also my mum had the Beatles record box set. So I used to, particularly the early Beatles, I used to love. I put it on cassette. And so that music is really, really familiar to me. I love all the kind of the girl groups, the Ronettes and things like that too. So I've always been loving that world, and I've always loved modern artists that dip into that too, like Amy Winehouse. And lately there's been some really good soul revival, neo soul type stuff. So I guess like I've been listening to music like that, and I wanted to, it's sort of like a return to my first album in a way. My first and second album are quite in that world, and it's like finding that balance between not being too digital or electronic, but only having small elements of that, but also not being too folk or acoustic and just, yeah. But I suppose with this song, Good Days, the songwriting is a little bit more of that 60s or that sort of soul style, because I don't really write songs in a soul way. They're often quite minimal in their melodies and top line lyrics, because it's more about sort of setting up a feeling, and they'll just be repeating the same kind of chorus hook with really great musicians. Like that's often what the soul sound is, I reckon. That the lyrics are often just, love songs or something like that. Um, so I tried to pull back my narrative songwriting of always wanting to be really sort of witty and clever and tie everything together and verbose, and just tried to like be a bit more chill with the songwriting. So that might be why
Okay,
it
I
does
dig that.
sound more accurately 60s or soul. And also shit hot musicians in the studio. Approaching it from that place of starting by just going, okay, so you've written the song, how are you going to create it? Not to say that other musicians I've worked with aren't great, but this was very much about bringing in guitarists, horns, and you've written it to an extent, but you're also just letting them play the vibe, just improvise. And that is a more old school way of recording, and I think that's why it also sounds more old fashioned, because we're also using old mics, old processors, reverbs, like all the gear was really old. The producer is just really dialed in with that sound, and voila, you put it all in the pot, stir it around, and You could go further. You could be like one microphone, everybody in a room. And I think that might be what a lot of people are doing at the moment, unless they're just using some excellent trickery. It sounds to me like people are doing old school recording. Anyway, I just love it. And it's a privilege to be able to play in the studio. And that's what we did this time.
Well, I think the end result is something very positive. You mentioned kind of wanting to set the tone with those good, those positive vibes. And I think I think you really hit the nail on the head, because no matter where you are or where you're from, I think we can all benefit from some positive messages right about now. Um,
Yeah.
where do you find hope?
For me, it's always been nature. Lately, it's a bit more people as well, but previously, it's always nature. Like if I'm feeling down about the world, I just want to look at a branch and some leaves and just zone in on that and appreciate life as it is in its most basic form. It reminds me that we're bloody lucky to even be alive in the first place. There's an amazing Tina Turner quote from the later part of her life, where she was Buddhist and very, very sort of philosophical New Age type person. And she said that, I mean, people say it all the time, but something about the way that she said it, I'm not going to remember it accurately, but something like, you just have to remind yourself that you're lucky to even be here. And because she was sick a lot, bad shit happens to all of us. But you just constantly got to remind yourself, you're so darn lucky to even be here, and you can do whatever you want with that. You can change it at any moment. So I do get really down in the dumps, and I have to constantly remind myself of that. And nature is the number one way to do it. I've got gorgeous kids and a gorgeous dog and a beautiful life, and sometimes that's not enough. Like sometimes, especially with the world at the moment, and there's just so much evil overlord bullshit that's coming down on us, that it's sometimes actually more depressing to look at my kids, because I start to worry about the future. But then I have to bring it back to, and what I try to pass on to them is, well, we're also lucky to be here, and we can just go and touch grass, like we don't have to live in the machine if we don't want to. We can do whatever we want with our lives.
I think those are
And
really
also, one more thing, sorry. What I have learnt in my old age wisdom is that giving out, like helping others, really brings it back to you. That I'd only started doing kind of volunteer stuff in the last decade, and that has really helped my happiness levels. It gives you a sense of purpose. It takes your mind off yourself. So if you're focusing on somebody else or something else, a better cause, I think that is a really good ticket to happiness as well.
Ooh, that's a lot of good advice for sure.
I'm just going to go off and write a self-help book.
you know, I mean, you mentioned before about it sort of having a spell-like quality. And I love that. I think that's a really interesting perspective. When we think about music, we don't often think about that. And it's kind of like you mentioned self-help. It's like an affirmation. If you keep saying it over and over again, that's what you're going to manifest.
Mm-hmm.
So what have you manifested lately?
Well, I'm trying to manifest my music, getting back in touch with fans of my older music. So my new music, just reaching those fans that maybe are lighter listeners, not the hardcore, really, really engaged fans. And then perhaps just widening a little bit, just getting a few new fans. That's all I want. I'm like, I don't need to be massive. I just want to widen things a little bit. So I'm trying to manifest just like a slightly larger amount of listenership. Not aiming for the stars, just aiming for like the atmosphere.
Just a little bit more.
Yeah.
I like that.
I know that the universe doesn't really work like that, but yeah, it's challenging enough, let me tell you, to try to access my hardcore fans. The way that the society has been set up now, what the tech bros have done to us, it is so hard for me just to access the people that I know love me, my actual followers, my actual fan base. I have to basically pay to find them.
That's, I hadn't also thought about it in that way too, because, the we have no control of the algorithms. They change all the time.
Mm.
So it's not like you can pinpoint any one way to engage. You can just engage and hope the right people see it. That's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the best for my mental health is just go, don't even think about it. Just keep putting your best foot forward creatively and doing, a bit of what they say you're meant to do and just hope for the best because you can't actually control it. There's so many artists putting out music. You just basically have to focus on doing a good job at your job because otherwise you kind of, it's too fake. It gets too fake if you're just thinking about where it's going to land, who's going to see it, are they going to care, push, 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 push. It's not really something I want to do.
Yeah, checking numbers like followers and likes and shares and all that, I'm sure is not why you got into music in the first place.
No. Mm-hmm.
No. I was watching the visualizer for the song and I was just, watching you. It was actually so calming to me just watching you write Good Days in the Sand over and over again. And,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to mellow out to that for a bit. What
Yeah.
what role do you think music videos have in 2026, especially with the things that we just talked about?
I think they've got less of a role, especially if you don't have the budget. If you're a massive artist with a record label behind you, great, go ahead and make a really complicated, beautiful music video. I think that YouTube has kind of become like a place for people to listen to music. So I was kind of focusing on visualizers more than videos. I did do a full video for Sunshine Girl because I had an idea and I wanted it to be like a little short film. But I'm going to make a visualizer for every single song on this record. And partly that's because it's become such a visual medium, like with Spotify. Sorry, my phone's going, not for me, for my daughter who doesn't have her own phone. So like it comes through my phone. She's not even here. So you know how like when you watch Spotify, and I'm not sure what the other streamers are like, but like a canvas comes up with a little bit of it's 8 seconds, just a little bit of a visual hint as to what the world might be that the song lives in. I really like that. I am a visual artist as well. I went to art school, so I love the visual side of music, and often if I'm really onto something with a song, it'll already have like a vision in my head as well and what I want to do depending on budget. Most of the time I'm like, well, that's what I would do if I had 50 grand, but seeing as I have $500, what am I going to do? So I constantly think about that, and I've actually already shot one for every single song on the album. But we were pretty quick in the rollout process of this. It's kind of just been like a 3-month, like boom, boom, boom. And that goes for deciding what the singles were as well. Besides Sunshine Girl, which everybody was agreeing on that should be the first song. Good Days was only kind of decided on a bit later, so I didn't go off and shoot anything else. So I've got the footage that I shot, which was like me playing on a beach on Super 8, just having a good day. What I would have loved to have done would be like a full shoot of a sort of like a lunch, like a wedding lunch with lots of people having a good time and get some sort of narrative going in that. But that requires, humans and a set and a crew, and I just didn't end up doing that. So it's just me playing on the beach, writing the spell in the sand.
Love it.
Over and over.
Highly recommend it. Honestly, it's such a good vibe to like just listen to and hang out, and it's almost like a little bit of a meditation, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. Nice.
But when
Excellent.
it comes to the process, where in the process do you find the most catharsis? Is it in the songwriting, the recording, or the performing?
Probably the recording. The songwriting is really fun. I love it, but you're alone and I'm usually alone. Sometimes I co-write, but the bit that is really magnificent for me is that when you turn that into a song, I just love that so much, especially when there's great musicians in the room, not me. and I just sit back and like I've written it because I'm not a very good piano player. So like this time around, I had a really great keys player who both of the songs that have come out so far have got, you know, really kind of funky Wurlitzer. He's a real loose, soulful player. And I'm like a umpapa kind of player. So it was so fun to have written these songs. And I know like I would love to play it differently, but I just don't have the vibe. I'm more of a like what basically all my songs sound like. Mm. And so like I just was like a pig in shit lying on the couch in the studio. That's my favorite place to be. You know, studios usually have a couch behind the producer. And walk in, I'm like, that's my little nest. I love it. I can sit there and listen to, and then to kind of say things like, can we try one a bit faster? Or can you just do something different for this take? It's bloody amazing.
That does sound more fun, and kind of that collaborative process, I'm sure, is also really rewarding.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's nice to sort of be the, having had written it and then be the director, but also just let go and just kind of, yeah, see what happens.
I was reading that you recorded most of it live in studio, and you were talking before about using sort of older equipment that isn't so tech heavy. How
Yeah.
how do you feel the album benefited from those things?
Um, I suppose unexpected, less tailored moments, which if you did it the other way, you would be really controlling how all those little licks, little, you know, moments on different instruments happen, and it just I think it'd be fine. Perhaps what it is like a difference between pop and non-pop. Like if it's a pop song, if you'd taken it in more of a pop direction, you would control everything a bit more. Uh, yeah, and it would still be fine, but it would just sound a bit more pop. And so things like doing the vocal takes, like we didn't go again and again and again. Occasionally we did if we were just really trying to nail a harmony or build up stacks in choruses and things like that. But for the most part, it's just one or two takes and not edited too much together. Just gives it a bit more of an old school sound. It might not be perfect. You know, there's little moments in it where I'm like, damn it, should have done something different there. But it's kind of, you know, you wouldn't have put Ella Fitzgerald in a room and made her do it 50 times and then cut it up. She would have just performed the song and yeah, so we tried to do it like that a bit. But that said, you don't have to do it that way, like to get a really real sound. Like, did you know that Billie Eilish really, really cuts up her vocals? I was watching something of her and Phineas in the studio, and I would have had no idea, because to me, she sounds like an old jazz crooner. She's got such a jazzy voice.
Yeah.
Like they managed to get that sound through a lot of editing. Like within the words, there's cuts.
Wow.
Like a word will like start from one take and end on the other take. So these days you can be very subtle with your technology for sure. And I just listened to Robin's album the other day, which is like on the total other spectrum of a female artist, but in regards to digital or not digital, totally digital, like absolute computer music, but it's very warm and human and intimate. She's a master of that, you know, like it's completely robotic, but there's something so human about it somehow still. And I think that's really interesting too. So I won't stay doing it like this forever. Like my next album might be sitting in bed with a computer making beats. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you hear a lot of visual artists talk about AI and about how technology is evolving too fast, and how it's kind of not giving
Mm,
artists credit and control. But I think it's interesting from the musical perspective. While we do, someone like even has like an AI generated band, they all sound terrible. But you know,
mm,
some artists really can utilize that technology um, to just add to their own art
yeah.
versus
Yeah.
replace it, which I think is probably a far more appropriate use of that if you're going to go
Well,
that route.
Perhaps the new mastery is going to be, how do you still manage to connect and keep that human element, because the computers aren't going to be able to do that on their own. That's the only thing we're going to be needed for.
Well, no. There will be other things. They might be different things, but there
Let's
will
not go
be
down this
more.
path.
No, I think,
Oh,
when it comes back to your album being live in studio, it it sounds rich, it sounds very real and human, and I think that those are great qualities to have. So, I do think it benefits. But how does moving away from those digital edits, how does that change your relationship with your vocals? Are you said you were kind of willing to just do a couple of takes and go.
well, I did insist on a few little edits here and there because of vanity. Like, oh, I didn't really sing that right, But I guess just trusting the producer, because I hired him, Tony Buchan. He's a great producer, and they are a curator in a way, and you've got to trust their ear to say, no, it's fine with the way you did it. It sounds cool. That's just a constant battle for any artist, I suppose, is to not tailor yourself too much. But you also do know yourself best. So it's a tricky balance to strike as to how you want to be heard or seen. I don't know. I guess just trying to be happy with it. And I was happy with it. So I wouldn't have let it go out into the world if I didn't think it was great.
Of course.
I felt very comfortable with what went out into the world. Sometimes it's nice to just have little bits of imperfection in there. That's human. That's life.
I think I was watching some creator on Instagram, and they were talking about how, because of AI and because of all the filters and all of the different tools we have, what's becoming more popular is the more realistic, as in like the imperfections, people
Yeah.
just being themselves, their raw selves. And I think that, what, I'm there, I'm in that camp of like, just be a real human, show me that you're a real person. And I think
Yeah,
the right people will gravitate towards you.
absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why we did it like that, because that's one of the things that's going to make it sound more authentic.
And it,
If you listen to like Bill Withers and stuff, you're
oof,
gonna hear, which was one of the big inspos for this album. You're gonna hear things that aren't perfect on there, and it's, yeah, one of the things that makes you get stabbed in the heart.
yeah, you love it more because it's not
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to performing that music, are you taking those same instruments along with you on the road, or how do you kind of replicate that sound?
Well, I haven't tried yet. I'm going to do it for a home show in Sydney in June. So if you have any Australian listeners, please come out and see me in Sydney, because I will have horn section. So the way that to get the horn sound of this kind of genre, it's one saxophone, one trumpet, and one trombone. So we'll have that plus my band, which is drums, bass, guitar, keys with me in it as well. Um, yeah, and less track and things like that. So I basically have to be ready to do anything from like a one-man band, just me playing solo, to more of a full band sound for the bigger ones that I do in China, where it's like 1 to 2,000 seaters. We'll have more track, which means, you've got pre-recorded stuff coming through. I'm a bit allergic to using live recorded humans as track on stage. I've just always found that a bit irksome. So if there's computer drums on a track, I'll put them on stage, especially if they're a big part of the song, or like pads, synths, things like that. I'm happy to have those coming out of the computer on stage, but I really hate it when I go and see a band and, for example, there's not a guitarist on stage, but you can hear guitar, stuff like that. Like, it's just, I don't know. I have a bit of a funny thing with that. But in this economy, like you just cannot afford to tour with that many humans, unfortunately. Like I already don't make a profit on the road unless I'm doing my bigger Asian shows. America, Australia, Europe. It's basically a cost for me already to just go, trio. So unfortunately can't be doing the horn section. I look at Olivia Dean shows. I haven't seen her live, but just seeing clips online, like that's so good. I'm so glad. And she's blown up, so there's a budget there for sure, but they've really put the best foot forward there, and they're going every Olivia Dean performance is a full band performance. Horns, backup singers, whatever, like it's probably like a 10-piece. Wonderful. And to employ all those musicians, wonderful. But that's why I just want to slightly bigger audience space so I can pay more humans to come on the road with me. And it's a great show then.
Yeah. Good Days is going to be released on your record label, Skip Along Records.
Yes.
What is the most liberating part and what is the most challenging part of being an independent artist?
The most liberating part is that I'm the boss. So I don't have anybody telling me what the music should be at all. So that's amazing. Like I'm the end of the line, because when you do have somebody telling you, it's pretty hard. And then the bad side is not having the budget and the reach that a label has. So it's just kind of forever trying to find that balance between how to achieve both of those is tricky. I put together a great team, and we try to do the same things that a label would do. But it was wonderful when I used to be signed to a major label, just the relationships that they've got in place and the manipulations that they can make in the world is pretty great. But they did breathe down my neck a little bit, especially on my second album. It was like they're like hovering. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? It's not a great place to be for an artist. And I was willing to try a little bit, but it's like you come up against your boundaries very quickly. And I was just like, I can't do that. It just makes me feel sick. Yeah. So it's a balance. It's a balancing act. I'm just grateful that I get to keep doing it.
Yeah. Speaking of balancing acts, what does the rest of 2026 look like for you and your music?
Hopefully doing a bit more touring. Nothing's booked in yet, but later in the year I'll definitely do some Asia. I'll do a China tour, but I would really like to get back to Europe. I haven't been since I cancelled my tour in 2020, which is 6 years ago. Like, because I'm a mum as well, like mostly my focus is just the day-to-day of being a parent, and then the month to month and the kind of the year planned out as to the school terms. And the years just go so quickly when you are focusing on what's going to be right for that kid. But to go, holy shit, I was meant to rebook that tour, and it's been 6 years. So I'd really like to get back to Europe. And I'm going to do a couple more shows in the States as well, mostly because I want to come over and go to my friend's 50th, who lives in California. So I'm like, well, if I'm coming back to America for a party, I should do a few more shows. So we're looking at, what do you call that part of America that's like around like Seattle, that
Pacific Northwest.
That kind of area, the Pacific Northwest. Maybe do a few shows around there.
Nice. Well, stay tuned for much more from Lenka. Be sure to check out Good Days. Thank you so much for talking with me. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you